And so the Hill has a story here. How can this be? The Democrat Party is the favored party of the youth. The Democrat Party doesn't have any youthful people running it. The Democrat Party is Jurassic Park. How can this be? And you may think it's a legitimate question. And you may wonder, why is it not an issue? The Democrats really are nothing but a bunch of old people. The Democrat Party really is a bunch of guys, get off my lawn type of guys. The Democrat Party is literally a bunch of gummers. So, ask yourself, why are they the go-to party for the American youth? Why are they the go-to party for the millennials? Why are they the go-to party for young journalists? Why are they the go-to party for Silicon Valley, Hollywood? Seriously, why? Why are they? Well, what do you mean by media branding? Okay. I don't think that's what it is. Snerdley just said it's because of media branding that the Democrat Party has been branded as the party of youthful exuberance and young, exciting, futuristic ideas. And I don't think that's it at all. In fact, I know what it is. And you know why I know what it is? Because I read these little minions. I read the millennials and what they write. I go to their blogs and their websites. They hate Republicans. They make fun. You ought to read what these youthful young people are writing about Ben Carson. And he's just the latest lunatic to come along and headline a Republican Party, which is nothing but a bunch of lunatics. And invariably in the litany of criticism, you'll find rabid Christian or some reference to some degree of devoutness Christianity. It is, I think it's a combined, I don't believe the Democrat Party has support because people love it. I think the Democrat Party has support because the people we're talking about here are either afraid of or hate or don't take seriously the Republican Party, and in large part it's because of conservatism, but even more importantly than that, I think that there is an absolute hatred and distrust and fear of people who are religious. Those people are usually pretty sure of themselves, which is off-putting to people like this. They're pretty confident. They're pretty sedate. They're gentle. They don't seem to have a whole lot of doubts about the unknown. And these people we're talking about, they're living lives in total abject fear and panic because they don't have any religion in their lives. They're looking for a replacement for God, so they go to environmentalism, or they go to any other aspect of racism, bigotry, wherever they can find a belief in something larger than themselves. But it isn't going to be religion because they associate Christianity with legitimate fools. To them, Christians and religious people are dangerous kooks who think that everything is God. They have a distorted view of Christianity because that's how they've been taught about it. How it's been explained to them. And so it's not that the Democrat Party offers them anything. The Democrat Party doesn't. Where is the youth at the top of the Democrat? Where is the hip in the Democrat Party? There really isn't any hip. You ever watch the White House Correspondents? They have to import hip. They have to import Hollywood people. The Democrat Party proves better than anybody ever has that politics is showbiz for the ugly. That politics is showbiz for the aging and the decrepit and the ugly. There is no youthful leader in the Democrat Party. There is no JFK anymore. There's no JFK Jr. There's nobody. I'm not altogether convinced that a majority of youth actually oppose conservatism anyway. It's just that it's fashionable to say so. Just like it's fashionable to join the protests at Mizzou. It's the path of least friction. But I am convinced that among certain people we're talking about, there's this abject fear of Christian religious people, and you can see it. This Washington Post story, Ben Carson, the humble bragging instrument of God. Ben Carson became convinced of two things during his teenage years. First, he was uniquely talented, quote, one of the most spectacular and smartest people in the world. And second, that God would answer his prayers, however specific they might be. That's the lead. That's why you're supposed to hate Carson. That's why you're supposed to suspect Carson, because he believes in God, and he believes in himself. Nobody's supposed to be that sure of themselves. Nobody's supposed to be that confident. And nobody is supposed to trust and rely on God to help them out. That's silly. That's stupid. There is no God. Don't you know? There is no God. And the fact that people believe there's a God, that is the biggest, I don't know what to call it. I think that one of the largest obstacles or the representations of fear that non-believers, liberals, whatever have, it just stymies them. I've got to take a break again. I'm long here, so interrupt myself. Back in a second.
I'll be happy to fit it.
Here's a little passage that I will define for you or translate for you. This is from the contemptible Washington Post piece describing Ben Carson as a humble, bragging instrument of God. It's also why Carson has expressed little regret over his controversial comments on the Holocaust, mass shootings, and slavery and Islam. What that means is his belief and his weird belief in God has kept Carson from apologizing for what he said and has kept him from apologizing for getting all these things wrong. Now, what were his controversial comments on the Holocaust? He said if the Jews had been armed, Hitler would have had a little bit more trouble. Can't say that. No. That's crazy talk. Mass shootings. What's he said about mass shootings? Gun-free zones, they are ripe targets for people who want to do mass shootings because they know there's nobody there to stop it. You can't say that. That's crazy. That's what a belief in God makes you think. It's stupid stuff like that. And Islam, I wouldn't want somebody who believes in Sharia law to be president because that means they won't honor the Constitution. See, that kind of Christian belief is discriminatory, and we can't have that in America. That's what all that means. Ben Carson scares the heck out of them. It scares them he might become president. It scares them that anybody like him, any religious conservative might become president. That's why they support the Democrat Party. I'm convinced. They're scared to death of religious people. That's why they're out attacking them everywhere they can. Indiana, over gay marriage or what have you. One of the objectives of the left is to stigmatize religious people as lunatics, intolerant, bigots, you name it. That's one of the ongoing, never-ending objectives of liberalism. You might say, as I have said in the past, that maybe, rather than doing what they were doing or are doing, they would maybe seek God, maybe add God to their lives, maybe instead of being so angry and scared all the time, and that ticks them off like you can't believe. Because to them, God means judgmentalism. Religion means what you can't do. Religion means being stigmatized for having a good time, no matter whether it's debauchery or whatever. And they don't want anybody judging what they do. And it's not so much, these people they're laden with guilt already. They know that the things that they're concerned with here, the things they're doing they're not right, they're not productive. They just don't want to be called on it. They already have the guilt in the first place. They just don't want to be called on it. And they don't want to be punished for it. So they're a mess, folks. They're an absolute mess. And I have talked my way through what I intended to do was take 2 phone calls here. I'm sorry. I promise I'll get to
Somebody has to have the guts to say it. Rush.
And this goes to what I was just discussing here about the point of youth and liberalism and fear of Christianity. And it's not just fear of Christianity, it's fear of Christians. fear of religious people because they represent a judgmental threat. Here are the two lines that Buckley included in God and A Man at Yale. And this is just another way of saying the point that I was trying to make before the previous hour ended. I believe, Buckley included here, I believe that the duel between Christianity and atheism is the most important in the world. And I further believe that the struggle between individualism and collectivism is the same struggle reproduced on another level. So we have a commingling here of individualism and Christianity with atheism and collectivism. Now, the people on the left who fear Christianity do not think of these people as individuals. That's where they miss the point. These young little millennials and leftists in journalism and wherever else they are, who have this irrational fear of the religious and of Christianity, do not think of them as individuals at all. They are the true brainwashed. To them, Christians are the epitome of mind-numbed robots. They are walking, talking automatons. And they all believe all of this stuff in the Bible that makes no sense, that's crazy and stupid and weird, and none of it can be proved in their life, in their belief. None of it can be proved. So they're idiots. Christians are non-thinkers. They're nothing more than sponges who soak this stuff up because they're looking for something better than there is on earth. And the atheist believes, of course, there's nothing but what's on earth. So these little liberals and leftists, with their fear of Christians and Christianity, miss totally who they are. They are not collectivists. They are not mind-numbed robots. They're actually fairly deep, and they're thinking. And in not all cases, obviously, but in most cases, they're independent. And you know what I have found of most Christians? Contrary to, this is going to shock a lot of you little leftists. You think that Christianity is made up and everybody in it believes everything but nothing more. Everything. Literally what's in the Bible, and that's it, and they don't question any of it. And you couldn't be more wrong. One of the great things, one of the most fascinating things about Christianity to me is how, I don't know what the percentage is, obviously, but a good number of Christians are looking for more than is in the Bible. They're looking for some sort of concrete logic or proof that they can offer to themselves. It's the natural quest of the curious. They have the foundation of faith. That's what they believe. They believe the faith. They have faith in what can't be proven, which every religion does, including liberalism. But beyond that, there's this ongoing, even if it's private and internal and entirely inwardly and self-focused. I'll give you just a little example. And I've told you this story before. To me, my dad was Christian and deeply religious, and it mattered a great deal to him. He was a biblical scholar in his own right, taught Sunday school in addition to all that, but was constantly curious and looking for other ways to prove what he desperately wanted to believe and did believe on faith. So he told a story when I was real young, and I don't remember how old. We were driving in the car, and he said, when telling the story, he said that I asked him, why do you believe in God, and why do you believe in heaven? Or how do you know there's a heaven or something? How do you know there's a God? Now, from his perspective, he believed in both. Here's his little son, me, 6 or 7 years old, asking the question. As a father, he wants his son to believe what he believes because he believes that what he believes is good and right and promising and so forth. But I'm 6 or 7. How does he can't quote the Bible to me. I'm 6 or 7. That isn't going to explain anything to me. All I'm going to say is, well, how do you know that's true? Why do you think that's right? He anticipated that whatever he read to me from the Bible, that I wouldn't be intellectually capable or old enough to accept, that I would have even more curiosity. So he devised a way to explain his belief. I've never forgotten it. And to me, it was extremely powerful. It isn't to a lot of people, but it is to me. The way he answered the question was to say that he believed in a loving God, and he asked me if I knew what that meant, and I said no. Remember, he's telling a story. I don't remember all the details of this because I was 5 or 6 when it was happening. Just started going to Sunday school, preschool, church, and so forth. So he said, well, God is the father of creation. He to explain creation to me in a way that a 5 or 6-year-old would understand it. And he said, son, I just have a time. I'm going to condense this for you for the sake of time. He said, I just can't believe that the loving God of creation, in whom I deeply believe, could and would create beings like us, human beings, capable of contemplating such a place of beauty and serenity for it not to be true. That would be cruel. That would be one of the cruelest things a loving God could do, to create human beings who can't imagine, because they've been told it exists, a heaven where there's eternal life, and beyond that, who knows? He said, but it would be cruel beyond belief for a loving God to create beings who could fathom such a thing and live their lives in ways they believe would get them there, for it all to be a lie. And that did more for me to make me understand what his belief was than anything he could have read to me from the Bible. But my point is here that none of that's in the Bible. I don't think it is. He came up with that on his own, just as a means of explaining why he believed. Most liberals think Christians believe unquestioningly, and this is what scares them. And such is not the case. There's constant curiosity, testing. Malcolm Muggeridge, one of the world's foremost atheists, and incidentally an associate of Mr. Buckley's, began a quest to disprove Christianity on the basis that it was silly. He was a renowned British intellectual. He embarked on this crusade to prove that it couldn't possibly be. It's this story in the Bible. All of this is just, it's the biggest bunch of mush ever. And he ended up being, after his in-depth attempt to disprove it, he ended up being one of the most devout Christians ever, to the point that when he died, National Review referred to him as one of God's gargoyles. A gargoyle is a religious sculpture on a church, facial figure. And he and Buckley was a devout Catholic, of course, and had many interviews with Muggeridge on his show Firing Line and so forth. But I remember talking to Buckley about Malcolm Muggeridge, because the whole story fascinated me. And Muggeridge is not the only, by no means the only intellectual who was just didn't think it could possibly be true. Some of these biblical stories, you tell me Noah and the Ark, Old Testament, New Testament, it didn't matter. But particularly New Testament set out to disprove it once and for all, and ended up being one of the biggest proselytizers. And that can't happen. My point is, for all you little squiggling little liberals, that can't happen without intellectual curiosity. Your fear of Christianity is so misplaced. You actually need to be afraid of your own leaders on the same basis you're afraid of Christians. If there's anybody intolerant and demanding and accepting of only one way to think and do it, it's the people you idolize. The mind-numbed robots are today's American left who don't question anything, who don't have the slightest idea what's going on outside this little cocoon of a bubble they've constructed for themselves to live in. But I'm telling you, it is this fear of Christians that has the Democrat Party so much support. That's why so many Republicans, you got to get rid of the social issues. What they really mean by that is, stop talking about God. Will you stop talking? Just get the Christians to shut up. They're killing us. That's what all that means. I'm just telling you, I can read it. When you go out and read some of these people I'm talking about, including my little tech bloggers, but it's not just them. It's any liberal journalist, young people. This Ben Carson political story, they think Ben Carson is the biggest fruitcake they have ever encountered. He's bigger fruitcake than Sharon Angle, a bigger fruitcake than Sarah Palin, bigger fruitcake. They are scared to death. They think he's a genuinely mentally ill lunatic. And it's the fear of his devout Christianity that I believe is at the root of that. We will be back. Don't
Put a little Limbaugh under the